If somebody called you a zebra right now, what would you do? Like genuinely, what would you do? You'd probably laugh it off or think that they insulted you, which is fair because on the surface, zebra doesn't exactly sound like a compliment. But most people actually have no idea of what a zebra actually is. Like they think they know because they've seen them in a nature video, at the zoo, and in the Lion King movie. But knowing what something looks like and knowing what something is are two completely different things. And with zebras, the gap between those two things is the size of the Grand Canyon. So that's what we're doing today. We're going past the stripes. Yes, we're still going to talk about the stripes, but we're getting into what this animal is actually about, like how it's built, how it thinks, how it lives, and how it treats the people around it. Because once you see all of that together, I promise you, the word zebra is going to hit different. And if someone ever calls you one, you should be proud.
So without wasting any more of your time, let's start with the most obvious thing, the stripes. Now the stripes are the whole visual identity of the zebra, and they're the first thing anybody brings up. So let's actually talk about them properly instead of just going, yeah, cool stripes. Because here's the thing, scientists have been trying to figure out the full purpose of zebra stripes for over 150 years. Like not casually wondering about it, actively researching it, debating it, and publishing papers about it. And the reason it's taken this long, the reason there still isn't one definitive clean answer, is because the stripes don't appear to be doing just one thing. They're doing multiple things at the same time, which when you think about it is kind of insane for a paint job. So let's go through them one at a time because each one deserves its own moment. The first thing the stripes do is something that researchers call the motion dazzle effect. The idea is that when a whole herd of zebras starts running together, all those stripes moving at the same time in slightly different directions create this chaotic visual blur that makes it difficult for a predator to lock on to one individual animal. It doesn't make them completely invisible to predators. It just makes it hard for the predator to isolate one zebra inside of it and stay locked on. Think about it like this. Have you ever tried to follow one specific person in a crowd and they're wearing something similar to everyone else around them, and the more you try to focus on them, the more your eyes keep sliding off to the wrong person? It's difficult, right? Now imagine that same feeling, except you're a lion and you're running at full speed and you're hungry and everything is moving, and the thing you're trying to catch has legs that can break your jaw if you get the angle wrong. Doesn't seem like a fun situation to be in, does it? Now, going from lions to insects feels like a weird pivot, I know, but stay with me here because this part is actually important. See, out on the African plains, biting flies, tsetse flies especially, are a serious problem, not annoying at a picnic serious, like kill a large animal type of serious, because these flies carry diseases that can be fatal. And what researchers found is that those flies have a really hard time landing on striped surfaces. It's just something about the high contrast pattern that disrupts their approach, so they can't seem to get a clean landing. The zebra doesn't swat them, it doesn't run from them, it doesn't do anything at all. Its stripes handle that problem passively. So just by existing and running with friends, the zebra is simultaneously confusing lions and repelling disease-carrying insects. And it hasn't done a single thing apart from just looking like itself. Which actually brings me to the last stripe thing, and this one is my favorite. Every single zebra has a completely unique stripe pattern. No two are the same, which is the same concept as our fingerprints, except instead of a tiny swirl on the tip of your finger that nobody sees unless they're really looking, it's across the zebra's entire body, visible from far away, belonging to that one animal, and only that one animal. There has never been another zebra in the history of zebras with that exact pattern, and there never will be.
Now, while the stripes alone are doing a lot of work, let's talk about what's underneath them, because I feel like this is where the zebra gets underestimated the most because of how much it looks like a horse. And to be fair, I get why people make that comparison. After all, they are related. They're the same general shape and size, they've got the mane, the hooves, the whole thing, right? But I really need you to let go of that comparison for a minute because it's genuinely misleading, and it causes people to underestimate the zebra in a pretty significant way. See, horses have been shaped by humans for thousands of years. Not exaggerating when I say that, by the way. It took us thousands of years of deliberately choosing which ones to breed, keeping the calm ones, getting rid of the difficult ones, slowly engineering an animal over countless generations to be more manageable, more cooperative, more useful to us. The zebra, on the other hand, has never been touched. Maybe because there aren't any priests out there. But anyway, moving on. Every single thing about a zebra, the muscles, the reflexes, the instincts, the temperament, was built entirely by living side by side with some of the most relentless and dangerous predators on the planet, like lions, hyenas, leopards, and crocodiles, over millions of years, where the cost of being slow or soft or caught off guard is your life. That's the only thing that shaped the zebra. Not us, not comfort, not cooperation, just survival. So when you look at a zebra and think, oh, it's basically a striped horse, what you're actually looking at is what a horse might have been if humans hadn't shown up and have had to sort everything out on its own. So at the end of the day, they're two very different animals. Same family, sure, but a completely different upbringing. And you can feel that in how the zebra moves. They can run at around 40 miles per hour, which sounds fast, until you realize that's not even the part that matters most. What matters is the zigzag. See, when a zebra is being chased, it can cut a hard left, then hard right, and then left again mid-sprint, with no warning and no pattern a predator can anticipate. So the thing doing the chasing isn't just dealing with something fast, it's dealing with something that keeps being in a completely different place than where it was a half a second ago. And as a predator, you physically can't deal with that, because when hunting, all your momentum is pointed in one direction, and then suddenly there's no zebra there anymore. And now you have to recalculate, and by the time you do that, the zebra is already somewhere else. So as a predator, a lot of your hunts won't fail because you gave up, but just because the zebra made it too exhausting and unprofitable to continue. But now we have to talk about a zebra's kick, because a single kick from a zebra can generate anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of force. And I know that number sounds big in the abstract, so let me give you something to actually attach it to, because the abstract doesn't do it justice. There are documented cases, like real, verified cases, of zebras breaking the jaws of lions with a single kick. And a lion with a broken jaw can't hunt, it can't chew, and it can't feed itself. So what ends up happening is the lion, the apex predator, the thing that came looking for a meal, walks away from that encounter with its ass in its hand. And if the humiliation isn't bad enough, the injury is, because a lion that can't feed itself will slowly starve to death. The zebra, which is the prey in that situation, ended the lion's whole career of being an apex predator with one kick.
But let's kind of shift gears and talk about domestication, because the story of us trying to domesticate zebras says everything about what kind of animal we're dealing with. Now, all of this domestication thing kind of started back in the late 1800s when Europeans were colonizing Africa, and they needed transportation. And at the time, horses were expensive to import, and they kept on dying from tsetse fly diseases. So what did these Europeans do? They looked over and saw zebras just existing out there on the African plains, somehow not dying from the diseases that kept killing their horses. And the logic of these Europeans was honestly pretty reasonable, because zebras look like horses, and we use horses, so why not just use the zebras? So they tried, and failed. Horribly. Now, that pretty much sums up the whole zebra domestication thing, because every other attempt we did ended in failure. But there are a few cases, like Walter Rothschild, who actually managed to get zebras to pull a carriage through the streets of London. And look, in individual cases, with a lot of time and patience, you could get a zebra to do something. That part is technically true, but here's where the whole dream falls apart. Taming one single zebra is not the same thing as domesticating zebras as a species. Domestication means breeding them over generations so that they can develop a population that reliably reproduces in captivity and can be consistently managed. And that's the part that has never worked for us. The reason why comes down to something called capture myopathy. That means when a zebra is captured, the stress response it has is so extreme that it can cause a breakdown of muscle and heart tissue, meaning the animal can literally die from the stress of being caught. Now, that doesn't just put a pause on the domestication plan, it stops it completely, because the whole process of domesticating an animal requires you to capture them, hold them, and breed the calmer ones over and over again. That's the playbook that we have used for centuries. We did it with horses, cows, and dogs, just to name a few, and it worked. But it only works if the animals survive long enough to breed. And if the stress of captivity alone can kill a zebra before you ever get to that part, then the whole playbook falls apart. The wildness of zebras isn't something that training can chip away at over time, because it's been baked into their DNA at a level so deep that the body itself will fail before it cooperates.
Now, at this point, you should have a pretty specific picture of the zebra forming in your head, right? But if that's where you stopped, you would be missing out on the other half of the animal. So first things first, let me just start by saying that zebras are loyal and they actually look out for each other. And we can see this in real time because of how zebras live and interact with their herd members. And just to give you an example, when the group is on the move and one member gets hurt or sick and can't keep up, the whole group slows down. And if someone gets separated, the group goes back for them. And remember, they live on the African plains where things are always trying to eat them, so the fact that they're willing to risk their own individual safety and the safety of the entire group just to go back and look for the one who isn't there really shows you what type of animal the zebra is. And then there's the stallion, which is the leader of the whole group. Now, I'm giving the stallion its own spotlight because when a predator comes and everyone starts running, he stays at the back. And the reason he's at the back is because he's making sure that everyone else gets out first by putting himself between his family and whatever's chasing them. And since we talked about the male, we have to talk about the females, because there's research out of Namibia that looked at what happens when baby zebras lose their mother, and what they found was that other mares in the group would step up and raise those babies, and the survival rates of those orphans were almost identical to a baby raised by its biological mother, which means other females in the group weren't just tolerating the orphans, they were fully committed to raising them. And at night, they take turns on watch by letting some sleep, some stay awake, and then they rotate. And these are such small details, but it says so much about how they think about each other. It's sending a message that nobody is exempt, nobody is too important to take a shift. You show up for the group because the group shows up for you. So let's put all of this together so you really understand, because here you have an animal with a pattern on its body that has never existed in exactly that form before and never will again. An animal whose entire physical design was forged not by human engineering, but by millions of years of surviving some of the most dangerous conditions on Earth. An animal that's fast, unpredictable, and kicks hard enough to kill a lion. An animal that humans have tried to domesticate for over a century and couldn't do it, not because the zebra is broken, but because it is so entirely what it is that there is no version of it that's willing to bend. And then, on the other side of all of that toughness, it slows down for the ones who are hurting. It goes back for the ones who got lost. It stands at the back when danger comes so everyone else gets out first, and it stays up at night so its family can sleep. The wildness and loyalty aren't two separate things about this animal. They're the same thing, but they're just pointed in different directions. Outward at anything that threatens it, and inward toward the ones it loves. So if somebody calls you a zebra, just say thank you, because what they're really saying is that you know who you are, you can't be made into something smaller, you hit back when you need to, and you don't leave people behind.